Thank you for joining Sports Development Series. We yours truly, Boma Ekiyor. Our Sports Dev Series is sponsored by Arewa Baobab Fruit Powder, one of the most nutritious substances on the planet. Get your Baobab Fruit Powder from arewabaobab.com. Yes, sir. We're live. Sports Dev Series. Our main man, number one football pundit, as far as we're concerned, it's in the building. Mike, what's up, man?
Thank you, brother. Number one in every space that I'm in, I think.
Yeah, you're number one to us. That's all that matters, bro.
Happy to be here. Happy Sunday.
Yeah, happy Sunday, man. So now we've kind of gone through all the qualifiers. We kind of had the aftermath. Unfortunately, you predicted our knockouts. I think I sent you a video. I sent you a video of you actually predicting it. One of the few times I wish you were not right. But it is what it is, and we'll move on. I think we'll talk some more about Eguavon, we'll talk about African qualifiers, talk about global qualifiers, talk about the World Cup draw, which you've all seen now. End of the year. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be sick. And kind of go from there. But before we jump in, always have to talk about our favorite fruit powder, which is Arewa Baobab. It's highly nutritious. Comes from the Arewa region of Nigeria. High in antioxidants, vitamin C. One of the best substances you can add to your diet. High in electrolytes, alkaline in nature. Can't go wrong. Order it from arewabaobab.com. That's AREWABAOBAB.com. You get free shipping in North America and add it to your nutrition plan. Anyways, so my man.
Yeah, for once I'm at a loss for words after seeing what I saw there. But let me begin by saying something, because I think sometimes we get caught up in all these matchups and competitions that we fail to recognize that we should congratulate the Ghanaian Black Stars for over two legs, basically outperforming our Super Eagles, which one would say was a more talented team. You can see that Ghana, they had a game plan and they stuck to it over two legs completely. And in fact, the game plan they executed in Lagos was a classic, a master plan. And, in sports, you always have your game plan that you discuss all week, what we're going to do. But a lot of times it's not that game plan that wins you the game. It's your in-game adjustment that actually delivers the result at the end of the day. And one must say that when in the balance of things, the Ghanaian bench coaching staff completely just outthought, outfoxed, and outwitted ours. As this is a start, because in the second half, when we was already tied 1-1 after they scored that early goal, that of course it was a gift, but still, by the time it was 1-1, the start of the second half, the Ghanaian coach decided to switch to a back five, because he could see that the danger that was occurring was around one particular player, Victor Osimhen, and that back five just limited the space. And to the chagrin of a lot of Super Eagles fans, the coaches didn't even seem to understand that had happened. And somebody was saying that it was one of the Super Eagles players on the field that had to let the coach know. And of course, I don't know the validity of that statement, that Ghana had switched to a back five and the adjustments were not very good to account for that. In fact, when you look at that second half, Ghana completely just outclassed us. They controlled the ball. We barely had the ball. The midfield was just in control. And the worst part of that is just seeing the lack of fight and lack of ideas. You could just see it on the body language of the Super Eagles. Like, they had, like, 70 minutes after that match, we had already conceded that we had lost that World Cup ticket by the players' body language. There was no fight in them. It was rather disappointing, Now, it sucks because we actually didn't lose any games over the two legs, but hey, the rules say if you give up a goal at home, then it counts against you, and that's exactly what we did. We failed to score in Ghana, should have, and Ghana scored in Nigeria with a speculative shot that 100 times out of 100 times that goalkeeper should be saving that, but such are the breaks, and the end result is that green, white, green will not be hoisted come November
Wait,
22nd.
but let's talk about the goal for a second, right? So if we look at that goal, throw in, boom, party, one touch, second touch, boom, Uzoho had it covered, goes under his body, goal. Let's rewind back to AFCON. Tunisia, boom, throw in, guy gets the pass, gives it to the other guy, boom, one touch, two touch, boom, Okoye Maduka touches the ball, goal. Both situations, players could have been closed down, shot would have been prevented or blocked, right? Both situations could be saved, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Now, given, even if we consider the goal, similar type of goals, very cheaply given, your other point you made about controlling the midfield and creating enough chances where we can equalize and take the game seemed to be lacking. Um, is that a function of coaching? Is that a function of
Um,
bad
well,
tactics? Is that is
well,
that is that
yes and no, yes and no. Because again, a lot of these guys are professionals. They play in the highest, the highest stages, the top leagues in the world, and of course, the fault you could say for both those goals you mentioned, one against Tunisia in the Cup of Nations, and the one right there against Ghana in Abuja, is simply that the defensive midfielder didn't do their job. And honestly speaking, when you look at Ghana, when you look at the team sheet, when you look at the where is the danger going to come from? Clearly, obviously, balls behind to the young kid Felix Afina Gian. Okay, that was pretty much covered all day. The second, and maybe even number one on the list would be speculative long shots from Thomas Partey. Look, ask yourself the question: did we even get a chance when we had the ball on their side of the field to even execute that type of a shot? No, because the coaches, they knew where the weaknesses on their defense was, and they also knew what our strong points on offense on the offensive side of the ball was, and they were drilled into closing those spaces down. Where's our favorite places? Where's our favorite touch? Where we like to go with the ball? Our wingers were cut down, so on and so forth. This is where coaching comes into play, where it's like, okay, all through the week, all through the 4 days, we're drilling this. Okay, when the ball comes out here, I mean, these are not like exceptional places. In fact, if you look at the build up to the goal, everything about that build up was horrible. The free kick we conceded was a weak free kick to concede on the left side of the field, and Ghana's attacking left side. And then right off the free kick, the guys were not even ready. They weren't ready to go. So Ghana played a quick free kick and had a free guy on the left side. And eventually, I think it ended up being either a throw in or a corner, but the ball's in the corner. A quick throw in, one touch to the guy on the left, gets it to Thomas Partey, who has time to corral the ball, take it, like you said, take another step before just at best a speculative shot. And it wasn't even that good of a shot, And so those are things that coaching will address. Will say this is their best route to scoring a goal because they weren't getting behind us. They weren't beating our fullbacks. They weren't doing any of the things that, a powerhouse team you'd be scared of can do. Yes, coaching, definitely coaching.
so in other words, you support termination of a Guavon after
Well, I
the
mean,
after the game, and then if also you saw what he said about hey, that he told the NFF that they should have never gotten rid of Gennard Rohr, that the timing was bad. It's funny
well,
that
that's
that's
medicine
been,
after death. That's
yeah,
medicine after death.
it's funny that that's
All
coming
that
out
talk.
coming
The
out
truth of the
now.
matter is, we saw enough to be able to assess his ability as a coach. And in the two big, well, there were three big games he was there for. Granted, again, I always want to just be very fair and say, okay, he didn't have enough time. But Igualvon has had enough of history with the Super Eagles that now we can clearly see that, great effort, very patriotic to take up the reins when after Gennaro Rohr was fired in such a short time. It gave us a very good result against Egypt. But now, come to think of it, now we can see that this Egyptian team is just really not that good. The only person that they have is Mohamed Salah. The rest of the team is just average to below average. All they do is they want to defend, 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 and
Counter,
and
get a
hopefully
little bit of
Salah
break
does
there.
something for you without any real pattern to their game. So no, even that victory over Egypt is starting to look less of a big victory now than it seemed at the time. But against Tunisia, the problem with Eguavon is not the style of play, but it's the reaction when things don't go the way they're supposed to go. And in those two big, in basically three of the games, because two against Ghana and one against Tunisia, it's been shown that he doesn't have any ability, or he hasn't shown the ability to make that in-game adjustment, which is what I began with. Ghana's coach, Otto Addo, who's also a young coach, showed that ability. That switch at the beginning of the second half to a backfire. That was the biggest difference in that game because
But
it
I don't think
completely.
Otto has I mean sometimes you have to look at someone's pedigree, right? Where they came from, how they were brought up. Otto spent time in that German system. Matter of fact, I think he was born in Germany. Um,
Mhm.
he has come up under some of those guys. They're high, very good tacticians, well schooled in the game, and he's been able to implement that. You could see it. Um, and Guavon, yes, I'm not knocking him. He has his credentials. I mean, he certainly does. But you and I know coming up with really good tactics in any sport as a coach comes with experience and tutelage, who you've been under, what you've been exposed to, how you've been able to learn. Um, and this is sports dev. So, in talking about our coaches, you know, um, and the NFF system for trying to develop top quality coaches, you know, what do you think about that? And that being a role in coming up with really good tacticians that I mean, because guy, dude, we didn't qualify for U17. We didn't qualify for U20. Now we haven't qualified for the World Cup. There's something fundamentally wrong here. And this has nothing to do with just Janet Roar or Eguavon. They're gonna fire Eguavon and they'll bring in some other clown. Foreign, domestic, whatever. But it's almost like saying, oh, okay, the rot is still in there. Let's just paint the
Yes.
top of the building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, and therein lies one of the issues there. The other thing too is, okay, granted, we know there's a rot in the system, but when you look at the makeup of the coaching staff that undertook this, you know, job to take over from Gunnar Raw, it was made up of absolute failures by the Nigerian space. We're talking about Paul Igbogun. He would played some of the most useless brand of ball that we've seen in any under 20 Nigerian team before. And in fact,
Yeah,
all through the under 20 AFCONs, all the way to the World Cup, they were just
atrocious.
unrecognizable as a
Yeah,
Nigerian
yeah. It
team.
was
And
terrible. It was
he
terrible.
gets what's his reward? He gets put in to go coach the Super Eagles. Salisu Yusuf, I believe that's his name. A coach that should not be anywhere near the Super Eagles because it's been tainted with the scepter of corruption, very caught red-handed. In any other place, that guy will never come near the national team, any federation job. But of course, in Nigeria, we all know how that goes. He's on the
Yeah.
coaching staff. Emmanuel Munike, okay, great. Everybody that was clamor for him to join the coaching staff, but at the end of the day, when you look at his record, it's not a very good record. He qualified Tanzania for the Nations Cup, but they weren't eager to retain his services. He gets hired by an Egyptian club, and within a month or so, he
He's
gets
fired.
shunted to the front office and for all effects and purposes, fired. I mean, he's had some success in the under 17 space, but also failure to qualify Nigeria for the under 20 World Cup with those same under 17 players. So, and then let's talk about Austin Guavon. Again, I'm trying not to really be harsh on him because he got put in a very untenable
Tough,
situation.
tough situation. Tough situation. Yeah.
But the records are still there for all to see. Failure. He's one of the coaches that was a part of the last non-qualification for the World Cup in 2006. He headed he headed the he began the campaign in 2012 when our qualification for AFCON, and which started in disaster, leaving him to get fired midway through the qualification, and then Samson Siasha being asked to come take over to remedy a situation that was already maybe unfixable to certainly. Of course, it was not very, very surprising that we didn't qualify for that Cup of Nations, which we ended up qualifying the next year and winning it under Stephen Keshi. But yeah, and then this. So we finished our worst finish in AFCON in 40 years, right? And not qualification for the World Cup. At some point, whatever the excuses are, the reasons are, these are the things that follow you. Sports is a result-oriented business. It's not about how pretty you play all the time. I mean, it matters to us, but we all need to play pretty, but you still got to win.
Yeah.
Win first, and then we can critique the style of play. So no matter what, we can't lose focus on that. So there are some coaches in the Nigerian space, And some already clamors are calling for people like George Finidi to come in and take over one of the youth teams. Mr. Boboye, I think he's a free agent right now, but there's a coach that coaches for, I believe, is Plateau United. A lot of people are very, very happy with the style of play that his team executes. So, what the problem is in Nigeria when it comes to the coaching space is what we're doing in our leagues, right? What we're doing in our leagues. By the way, it's 2-2. Liverpool just equalized.
Nice,
Yes.
nice.
What we're doing in
Oh,
our leagues, how we're developing the style of play. When you look at the style of play in the leagues, it's really shambolic. You know, it's a shambolic. It's like police football, long ball, nothing concrete. You know, it's development of football starts from grassroots, and really that's where we got it. We have to take this hit and understand that it is a moment for us to re just rejig the system. Go back and not just say, "Oh, it was a one-off," but understand that there's something wrong and we have to try to fix it. It might take some time, but we need to fix our local league. And now, look, we have to get to the point where our players, when they leave the shores, are technically efficient. They're good enough to go into any of these teams in Europe and not have to sit on the bench for 1 year, 2 years, ply their trades in these obscure leagues trying to learn the trade. You know, our guys are just not. Our players are just lacking technique, and that comes from coaching. We need to make sure that our coaches, we have enough youth grassroots coaches that are teaching what we want them to teach in terms of technique. And that might mean the federation needs to sponsor coaches. We need guys with CAF. We don't even have coaches with CAF badges.
yeah, yeah. No,
But we're
no.
talking
It's
SFP badges.
and that, yes, yeah, dude, you're hitting the nail on the head, man. And that is where the focus needs to be. You just failed to qualify for the World Cup. You didn't qualify for the U17. You didn't qualify for the U20. So none of your youth teams get to compete on the international stage. And by the way, your national team has also failed. You're you're not you can't source players that you trust from within your shores. You're looking for young players that have been developed abroad whose parents happen to be Nigerian. That is admitting a fundamental flaw in your development program. Let's be honest. But then if you have these conversations with some of these decision makers, usually they say to make change, you have to admit that there's a flaw, right? You have to be willing to say, okay, what we're doing is not working. And that is where the yawa will start, as we say in Nigeria. That's where the
Yes.
problem starts, because it's like you're not going to get them to admit that we don't have a clean system for development of coaches, a system for development of players, a system that will ensure, like you said, our guys have the right technical ability to be able to compete with anyone at the club level. And we need to stop playing 40-year-olds in our club teams. These are real issues. Players don't get paid their salaries. These are fundamental things that if the federation doesn't address, you're not going to move forward as a league. In the years preceding, when we had our golden generation, a lot of those players played in our leagues. A lot of them came up in the leagues. But you can see the difference then and now. The
Yes.
Amuniques, the Finidi play for Sharks or Port Harcourt. The list goes on and on. Almost every single one of those guys that I've either talked to or investigated, you find out that they came up through a system that involved the leagues. They got signed abroad or whatever because they were good enough.
Right.
But now you look, listen, you'd be hard pressed to find guys in our league that you can actually take. If you look at most of the guys who grew up in Nigeria play on our national team, most of them didn't play in our leagues.
Nope.
Not in
They
the
they
league.
bypass the league because
Yeah,
again the league is not developing anybody. And but they're
correct.
even talking about that now. And so now in that match against Ghana in the second leg in Abuja, one could see that I believe it was 6 players that were foreign born. Ademola Lukman, the Oyibo Wall, 2 of them, that's 3. Bassi,
All I know,
and
Basi,
so it's
our
5
entire
players.
back four.
So in other words, half of the team were foreign born.
Hmm.
And The problem with that is that nothing wrong with that at all. If the players of enough quality, let him come play for us. But you now see that some of these guys, maybe I wouldn't say Balogun and Truce because they played long enough to understand. It's just Calvin Bassey was just off the pace. He just wasn't comfortable. It looked like the heat was too much for him, and he just didn't look like the type of player that should be the starter for the Super Eagles in a crucial match like that. Unfortunately, he probably deserved to start because we didn't have any options.
Hmm.
Online now was I always like his industry, and I've always enjoyed his play. He had one of his off games too. But the thing that you just didn't see that sense of urgency that comes with understanding the passion because you grew up in the country. You yourself were once that passionate fan that you couldn't wait to see the Super. Didn't have that, and it's unfortunate because that says a lot about where we stand in football right now. That if we half of our team are players born outside the shores of the country in a crucial match like that, then it just speaks volumes for our development on the local side. I think that speaks the most volumes. Like you said, on the 17, no way. The 20, no way. When's the last time we made the Olympics? So it's like the development itself is lacking. By the way, Liverpool have now turned the screws. What I was telling you about how Man City were the team that just came wave after wave. It's becoming a Liverpool wave after wave after wave. In fact, by now they should have already scored another goal. But anyway, this is not. I digress.
No, no, bro. I think the thing is this. Development, the NFF, development of football in any country is controlled by the federation. The federation has the monopoly on development. If you go to majority of the well-run federations on this planet, you will see that their focus on their homepage is usually about development, coaches, licenses, badges for all sorts of entities under the federation's umbrella. They control it, they manage it, they use it to generate money. They're independent of government, they make their own decisions, and they run their organizations. This is what they do. So if you look at the NFF from that standpoint and you evaluate Nigeria as a country as a whole, 200, some people say 211 million, right? Majority of the population is under the age of 30. Tropical climate, warm year round. Some sports scientists have said you find the best athletes on this planet that they reside above the Gulf of Guinea, which is essentially West African coastline, right? So the natural athletes are there. You don't have winter. You have access. There's a stadium. There's a stadium in every state in Nigeria, right? So the framework is there already. What you really have to do is create a system and hold everyone to the system and make sure, like you said, people actually teaching these kids are teaching them the proper thing, and then let the system kind of just develop and give birth to the best of the best.
To the
That's
best of
what
the
they
best.
have to, yeah, that's what they have to do. And every time, we qualify for a World Cup, that gets tossed out the window. Why? Because we're like, yeah, we don't need it because we're doing good anyways, right? When we fail, the conversation starts for a little bit, and then they hire a coach. Maybe we get some wins, and then that
Well,
gets
look, what is the conversation now? Let me tell you what the conversation is now. The like vultures already circling around the NFF offices for those who want to now take over for the
from
share of the
Pinnick.
pie.
Yeah,
So Pinnick was was going to run for a third term, and if he had any kind of pride, he would have resigned already after that failure. It wasn't just the match itself, the execution. It's a series of things. We didn't us not qualifying for the World Cup didn't happen over two legs against Ghana. It happened from how we fired Gernot Raw, and in the untimely firing. Again, I think there's enough evidence in this podcast for us to say I particularly agree that Gernot Raw should go. Like I was never one that disagree that. I just said the timing of it is horrible. You can't
yeah,
be
the time
firing a
was
coach.
terrible.
If you were gonna like, you asked me a question once, when should we fire Gernot Raw? And I gave you the answer the moment we came back from
World Cup.
Russia in
Yeah,
2018,
yeah.
or after AFCON in 2019. But to fire him 3 weeks before the tournament, that was just horrible. And you
Understand.
settle for fail. And the problem is that if we're succeeded, then we'll say, "Oh, it works." In reality, no, that doesn't work. It's like that's the problem. We've been covering up our tracks, doing the wrong thing, but the success that guys were able to overcome those wrong decisions has made it seem as if things are going well. Now, two things. Already, they're politicizing the NFF, the next NFF championship. I already heard one group called the Northern Bloc. I've never even heard of that in the NFF space before, but now I've heard
What?
it. The Northern Bloc is saying now the next president for NFF must come from the North. So we're seeing this
Jesus have
again.
mercy.
Another
Oh
guy,
my God.
another guy that he's now saying that people are asking him to run is Mr. Giwa, Dele Giwa, the one guy that had been throwing the whole football
The guy from Plateau State.
Yes, now the one that had been
Yeah, yeah,
suing
yeah.
that claims he won
Is
the
his name
mandate.
Giwa? I don't think his name is Giwa. His name is it's not Dele though. It's something else, right?
Yes, it's Giwa, but I think Dele Giwa is the one that
The journalist
supposedly
that got murdered.
Babangida
Yeah.
bombed with the
Hmm.
letter bomb. But
Allegedly,
let me see.
allegedly.
Yes,
I want to go
yes.
back to Nigeria. Allegedly.
uh, let's see. Chris Giwa. It was
Chris
Christopher
Giwa. There
Giwa.
you go. Yeah.
That's his name. So he's now circling around again. So it's just like
Yeah.
vultures. So you can see already that if these are the people that are going to replace Melvin Amaju Pinnick, then these are not guys who are coming in the interest of football for the country. These are guys that are self-serving, definitely self-serving. I know that, at least I know for the fact that Christopher Giwa. And
Oh,
then if
he's
you look at him,
terrible.
he looks like he's just hungry to steal
He's
money. Just looking
terrible.
at him, and then a northern block. Well, which one is a northern block again?
What the hell is
These are the
that?
things that just hold us back. Instead of us to like be talking about whoever the next best thing is, we're already trying to apportion it to politics of the country. So
Yeah.
the other part of I was trying to say something about Pinnick. Look, again, the two legs we lost. I still believe that's not where we lost the ticket. We lost the ticket due to a whole bunch of missteps. But the one thing that really was the worst thing that occurred was what happened in the stadium after the game, before and after. You
Oh
know,
yeah, the Stampede.
in a play.
Yeah.
The thing is
Yeah, that
annoying
was.
because we just came from AFCON where a situation like that occurred where there were deaths in the stadium because of lack of crowd control entering into the stadium. The same thing happened in Abuja again. First of all, they give away 20,000 free tickets. Okay, I applaud them. No wala there. Let's get support for Super Eagles. But the crowd control entering into the stadium was horrible. People were saying that there were thousands of people trying to cram into one turnstile. Not enough gates were open. So at the end, and then they had this VI. Supposedly, they said Buhari was coming, so they closed off one gate so that only VIPs can enter, and the people were waiting for hours on end. So you can imagine in that heat, the frustration. At the end of the day, they just rushed that gate. They bum rushed the gate. So this was happening. This was before the game. There was already a stampede in the stadium before. Then after, if you've seen the highlights, did you see any riot police anywhere around that stadium? And when the fans were in the field, no. Except somebody just opened one of the gates and let the fans onto the field. And then somebody threw tear gas out there. It's just
You
that
know,
falls under the purview of the NFF. That
hundred
management.
percent,
That's
100%.
that
Yeah,
and that right there alone should have been alone for them to just resign and be just quit. But
yeah,
they won't.
100%. No, they
They
won't. Of
won't.
course not. Resign? Are you joking?
And Pinnick has the nerve to open his mouth and say, "Oh, I'm not going to run for a third term because it's having an impact on my time with my family." No, you should have resigned already. You shouldn't even be talking to. Don't talk. Look,
You know,
sometimes I wonder who do
they,
we offend to be Nigerians because
nah,
we get everything, the simplest things wrong, and we have people who don't have our interests at heart already in positions where they should be taking care of us. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous. And this has
well,
to end. Imagine Pinnick should resign effective immediately. Oh, and
yeah,
everyone in that board should resign effective immediately. This is the one thing I would say every Nigerian cares about is football, the Super Eagles, getting to the and you
yeah,
failed it. When you fail, you do the honorable thing.
yeah, but that's admitting fault though. You have to realize. And I think, like you said, changing the system is admitting fault. Stepping down is admitting fault, and that's not something that It's characteristic about
What admitting?
this.
We see it. We all the
Yeah,
results are
yeah, yeah,
correct.
yeah. But it's one thing to see it. It's another thing for the person you know to say, yeah, yeah, you're right. Look, that Stampede situation, that's really unfortunate because that goes beyond football. That's a security issue. That's a safety issue. That's a safety of thousands of people. Anytime you have an event like that and you're expecting 60,000 people and you cannot create an environment where a lot of them could easily get into the stadium, a lot of them could easily sit down, it's safe, it's easily accessible, all that, you failed. And besides, apart from that, I don't even know what the NFF's plan was or whether or not they created an environment where they controlled all the revenue from that environment. I'm talking about parking. I'm talking about making sure that you had access to refreshments and you actually got all that money. I'm talking about everything associated with having 60,000 people at a venue. I don't know whether or not they really maximize of it because typically what happens in a lot of environments is when you have those sort of events, they'll let you know how much they made,
Nah,
off gate,
in
of
Nigeria, okay. I
you
beg.
know,
We might as well just move on to another topic if that's what
you,
you want to
you
bring up
know.
because
But you
that,
see that the safety issue was just so disturbing. I don't know, you know. Clearly, they dropped the ball. But the question I'm asking is, do they have a department that handles game day event activities? Do they have? Do they just how does it even work? When okay, if you have a game coming up and you know that you're going to have thousands of people, what's the plan within the NFF offices in Abuja to say, okay, this is how we're going to manage this. This is how this event is going to be organized. I swear to you, I'll be curious to know. Like, do they have meetings over meetings over meetings over meetings to talk about how this whole thing is going to plan out? Do they, you know, we don't know. We don't even know. You know, even after this came out, this thing happened. Was there any comment from them about how this is going to be never happen again? How it's those sort of things. And like you said, right, Chris Giwa, I don't even know what the Northern Block is, but Chris Giwa and those ones coming out, what it's like. And here's what happens: these guys go to every federation, every FA, and they try to bribe people across the board in every FA so they could vote for them. I think I know what a Northern Block is now. A Northern Block means that, oh, if you happen to be from what's been termed a northern state, then you're part of that block, which essentially gives you majority of the votes in the country. Because you have 36 states. I think 19 of them are northern, 17 are southern.
19, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so classified northern, which to me, a lot of them really aren't. I went to school
Right,
in
right,
Kwara.
right,
Kwara
right,
is not
right.
northern, right?
Mhm.
Neither is
Even Benue
Taraba,
stuff that
Benue,
isn't. It's in
Plateau.
the middle.
Yeah, they're not northern states, but that's what this is. It's an attempt to garner most of the votes. So you put someone forward, the person promises you all kinds of money that they're going to steal from the coffers of NFF, and they come together and try and put that person up. That's what this
Right?
is.
So
There's no.
they're bringing forth some guy named Al Haji Yusuf. That's the guy that they feel is their man from the Northern Bloc, right? So, does it even matter? It doesn't
But
matter.
what has
It
he? What
doesn't
has he
matter.
done? Where
Exactly. We don't know.
I
I
don't.
don't know.
Listen,
And that's
listen.
the
They
thing
can.
is, I don't really know, so maybe I shouldn't cast too much aspersions there.
Yeah,
But at the end of the day,
they can.
we
They can.
know who's
I,
who, and if we haven't heard the
exactly.
name, then most
I
likely,
just listen. I don't care who you bring, right? I just want to know what the person has done. Why has this person come forward? What have they done in terms of development to really develop the space of whatever little space they were in before this? What did they accomplish, and why are they qualified to do this? That's it. I mean, to me, the fact that they're doing that means they're just trying to
oh, we
politicize
know
it.
what it is now. We know what
Yeah,
it is.
I think
Okay.
everyone should run in this situation. The NFF leadership is not something that they've done on rotational basis, not like the president of Nigeria.
And it doesn't
So
need to be. And for even,
yeah,
I get
it
the
doesn't need to be.
presidency. I kind of get that a little bit, but even that, I feel like shouldn't even be that way. But
Correct.
it is what it is. But definitely, we shouldn't be doing that. And there's the one thing that has kind of sort of looked like it worked over the years, but now it's looking like that rot that is embedded inside of the nation itself has finally overwhelmed our football because really at the end of the day, nothing works. Even, at the end, look, the, let me point something out to you real fast about that second leg match. Obviously, the day before that attack on the
Yeah.
train that killed many, many dozens of people, if not hundreds of people, and injured a lot more by terrorists. Let's call them what they are. They're terrorists and armed robbers. It was a brazen attack on one of those lines that you would never expect that should be happening in a country of that size.
Hmm.
It's right there. It's right there close to Abuja. I think there
Yeah.
was a scepter of that was in the air. It just everything. It just felt the vibe was just not positive in the air. You could just feel that because it was say what you want to say about politics, but there's one thing we can say is that it just doesn't look like the people have confidence in the president of the nation right now. Some will even say it's almost better that Nigeria didn't even win that match because there were bigger issues at hand that particular day, that we
Yeah.
needed to attend to and focus on rather than focusing on the football match. But
Yeah.
the thing that, but then we always complain about our leaders, but really our leaders come from amongst the people. It's not like the leaders come from outer space or from different countries. They come from the people. And so the attitude of the people is generally the attitude of the leaders. Before the match, there's supposed to be a minute of silence to honor those who died in that horrible attack on the train just the day before. Silence kept. The whole stadium was noisy. Everyone was still there talking. And so you see, simple things like that we cannot even do ourselves. And we now expect those who lead us who could care less to be doing the honorable things. Yeah, it's not just the leaders. It's a mindset shift in the entire nation, really, a mentality shift that needs to occur. And once that starts occurring, maybe we can start demanding, holding our leaders way more accountable for things that they ought to be doing. It's just a sad state of affair, and then nothing is working in the country, and so it's no surprise that football itself is also not working.
Suffering. Anyway, so let's move on. Speaking about changes in NFF, Samuel Eto'o is president of Fecafoot. Is it Fecafoot in Cameroon?
It
So
is.
they it's funny story is that I heard, I don't know how accurate it is, but he comes in and one of the first thing he does, he goes to the front office of the federation, and all the workers that showed up late on that first day, he locks all of them.
Yes, I told you that story. I
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
said
yeah,
that in the last podcast that we had. Yes, that's a very true story.
it's
It's not.
true.
It's not rumor.
Yeah,
It's very true. Yes,
yeah.
very accurate story. And a
So
lot of people were.
and I gave them hell for hiring Rigobert Song because that first leg was just atrocious against Algeria. But look, they came back. They went to Algeria and they did the business, man. They went out there, they showed grit, and they won the game and they qualified. So Cameroon, to me, the largest. Well, you could make the argument that Senegal's comeback was difficult too, but Cameroon on the road,
Yeah, theirs was definitely the toughest part. In fact,
yeah,
when we did our breakdown of who we thought were going to win, we both just summarily agreed that Cameroon was out. We didn't even give
yeah,
them.
yeah, yeah.
We did have that caveat that you mentioned it at the end, like
Yeah, I
these
say,
guys
hey,
have the ability to do this because we've seen it before, isn't it? Did it surprise us that they did it? No. Did we expect that they were going to do it? Obviously not. So
mhm,
hats off to them completely. And there you can see the fight, the drive, the passion, the desire. They had all of that, which is simply missing from our Super Eagles. And not to say
mhm,
on Algeria, they have to be completely disappointed. Now, speaking of that, though, and when you talk about Cameroon and Algeria, and you talk about Egypt and Senegal, two very high profile, let's just say West African, North African matchups. For all intents and purposes, Cameroon are part of West Africa. We had a central, but we know that
yeah,
they're pretty much West African ish.
yeah. They were part of Nigeria before
And
independence, so
and
yeah,
both of those were overcome by the West African sides or the
yeah.
sub-Saharan sides. And what I cannot
Which I
stand
was
this.
happy about, by the way, extremely
I
happy about.
cannot
But yeah,
stand this. Neither both Egypt and Algeria follow that up with series of complaints. Oh,
yeah.
let's replay the matches. Not one time did any of them congratulate the team that defeated them
No,
over two
no,
legs.
no.
And this is becoming annoying as heck. And the North Africans they continue to do this. It's almost as if there's no way that any of these other teams can dare beat them. How dare these other? They just don't accept that they've been beaten by any of these guys ever.
But
And
that's why, you remember I told
the
you, I said that's
sportsmanship.
why
I'm
they get
sorry.
on my nerves. I never root for them, never, and especially if they're playing any sub-Saharan country. I hate to say this, but it's a fact because even in AFCON, when it's clear they lost, you see them coming up with all sorts of complaints. There've been incidents where their fans have attacked our players on road games in their stadiums. There've been all sorts of things over the years. So yeah, but go ahead, man. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, then that has to change. I mean, look. At the end of the day, sportsmanship, man. You play. I mean, Algeria were complaining about the referee. You played at home. Everything was there for you. You messed up. You had the World Cup ticket with seconds to go, and you blew it. There was no referee that did anything. That you blew it. Send up and be counted. Congratulate the other team. It hurts, but congratulate the other team and move on. And that stuff is just and then the Egypt the Egypt Senegal one is the most contentious one, of course. And if you watch the first leg, you would see those lasers being pointed at Senegalese players. And in Africa, it's the North Africans that brought that nonsense to the continent. That whole
100%.
laser in your
They
face.
started it. Yeah,
And the
100%.
Senegalese were like, "Oh, you want to do that? Oh, we'll show you that we have technology. We have lasers too." Now, I don't agree with what they were doing because that's certainly not in the spirit of fair play. But I mean, look, you cannot cry about it after you, the one that started it. You did it just 3 days earlier, and now you want to say, "Oh, replay the match because Mo Salah missed his penalty." Hey, next time make a penalty.
The best of the best miss penalties. And let's be honest, before the penalty, you had how many minutes the whole game to score a goal?
120 minutes,
Yeah,
one
to
goal.
create
What matters
chances.
is with you
Yeah,
because
all you
now
do
exactly.
exactly. So
So
so it
I
was a
do
lame
understand. And
excuse.
besides, at the end of the day, man, although I'll say it's unfortunate Algeria is not there, but really at the end of the day, Egypt doesn't. I don't need Egypt representing Africa. Their brand of football is boring, just like Tunisia. Their brand of football is boring. And if I could have done something, I would have swapped out Tunisia playing against Cameroon and Algeria playing against Congo. So we
Yeah.
can get rid of Tunisia, get rid of Egypt, maybe give Algeria the chance to represent North Africa, and pretty much, and the rest of the teams that qualified. I like the 5 teams that made it to the World Cup, obviously except Ghana. I don't think Ghana will go there and they will actually represent well because they know how to play. Their style means that they're set up not to lose. And once you set up not to lose, and you add 1 or 2 quality guys, which all of a sudden you're seeing those quality guys are starting to circle. The European-born Ghanaians starting to circle around the team, saying they want to play Nketiah, that plays for Arsenal. He's already talking about it. There's another guy that Inaki Williams for Athletic Club
In Madrid.
in
Yeah, yeah,
Spain.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
He's talking about trying to represent Ghana at the World Cup. So you're now
Oh, he's
seeing those
Ghanaian
guys. Oh yeah, he's Ghanaian, but he grew up in the Basque region there in
in
uh,
Spain.
in Spain in Bilbao. So
Yeah, I hate that, by the way,
I
that these
do too.
guys kind of they sit on their asses, and then you have all these players that go there and work really hard and get the team qualified for the World Cup, and then these guys then show up and they, oh, by the way, did you know my great grandfather was Ghanaian? I could play
Hudson
for you.
Odoi. Yep, Hudson Odoi. All those. So those are the 3 main. So if they, I mean, honestly, I hate it, but really, with the team Ghana has right now, they're just going to make up the numbers. And that one's kind of clear. Right? I just
Yeah.
don't see them. They're not experienced enough. They're a good team, and I like the way the coach has them set up because the setup is they're not going to lose. They're not going to lose. They're not going to be the ones that will be the instrument of losing the game. But they
Yeah.
also probably won't take the game to you. So they're just lacking. They're lacking some quality up front because they have good midfielders. So they have guys that can do some work and produce chances for their forwards, and they have speed.
And they have pace. That's what I was going to say, and they're athletically gifted. So, if you look at their draw in the World Cup, you have Portugal, Uruguay, and South Korea. I could see Ghana taking out Uruguay and South Korea. Even Portugal is not guaranteed that they will beat them, depending on the mindset they have going into that game. Now, Portugal have experience in Cristiano Ronaldo, which I think is going to give their defense problems. Um, but Uruguay, yes, they do have those. I call them killers. In Suarez and
Cavani, but they're
Cavani. Though
old.
they're older, but they're still killers though. Those
They're
guys. I saw
quality.
Cavani. Yeah, the experience. So I could see them. But Ghana is young. they're pacey, they're strong. I was telling one of my Ghanaian friends, he was like laughing at me because they knocked us out. I said, what's
Well,
crazy? I'm going to be,
everybody
I'm still going
they
to be,
deserve to laugh at us.
yeah. And I said, you know what? I'm still going to be rooting for you in the World Cup. That's the crazy thing about
Of
it.
course, now
Like
we
whoever
will.
Ghana plays, yeah, I'm going to be in Ghana's corner. So it's. But I think if they can, I could see them giving a lot of these countries problems. It's really going to be about confidence of their team. If
Yeah.
um if
So
they
I mean,
go
what's
in
going to
and
happen
play
is
now,
the odd
now
goal will decide most of those games, right? So we're looking at one slip up
correct.
defensively. You won one game, 0-0, 1-0.
Yeah,
Those are the kind of scores we're going to be seeing in those games.
yeah,
Portugal, I don't know if you watch a lot of their qualifiers. The one thing is very clear: Portugal is not reliant on Ronaldo anymore. They don't even like he's now
yeah.
like a passenger on the team more than the conductor now. He's being carried by the likes of Diogo Jota and
Diogo
Bruno
Jota,
Fernandes
Fernandez.
and
What's the name of that kid that plays for Atletico? He's a forward. He
Felix.
plays for
Felix.
Felix. Listen, this guy's Portugal is solid, bro. That's a
And the midfield
solid team.
consists of very good guys. Nueves that plays for Wolverhampton, one of the Wanderers, a bunch of grinders. Portugal's team, look, they're still a dark horse. A sleeper
Yeah,
team
yeah,
to go to at least the semifinals. Uruguay, it's the experience. But for me, I feel like Ghana should feel like that's as good a draw as they got to get Uruguay.
yeah.
So to me, Portugal is probably going to be the top team. And then that second spot is being fought by all three teams. Obviously, Ghana will be the one with the least amount of pedigree. People will, but South Korea is not bad either. Of course, they got Sung Hyun
No,
Min
South Korea always
and
shows up,
Wang Chan. But yeah,
and tactically they're usually solid. So they may not beat you man for man, but tactically as a group, the way they will approach the game is going to be solid.
I
So
think
that
Ghana's
that
group is the most balanced group in the entire World Cup. I don't want to say it's the group of death necessarily, but it's definitely the most balanced group out of all the
yeah.
draw,
Now
in my
Cameroon
opinion.
on the other hand, they're in a battle, bro. Their group, Switzerland, Serbia, and Brazil.
They can come out of that
Um,
group if they just. Oh, I mean, if they get their act together and start playing, like if they play like they played in
Serbia,
the first
Serbia, and
round,
Brazil, Serbia and Switzerland are solid, man. Those are good
they are,
teams.
but let's put it like this: if we were in that group, would you say that you don't think we can beat Serbia and Switzerland on a good day? We can,
I think we can.
right?
It's you're right. On a good day, we have to show up. So Cameroon, yes, Cameroon. I can see Cameroon taking them out. It's going to come down to again. I think it's mindset. A lot of these things. Let's say I need to pull up the actual fixtures to see who they play first. If they play a Serbia or Switzerland first, not a Brazil, and
I
they're
think
able
they
to
play
get
Switzerland first.
yes, and Switzerland is good. I don't know if you've been watching them. I watched them in the Euros. I saw some of their qualifiers. They know how. And remember what happened in the Euros? They almost who did they almost knock off? One of the major teams. They
Oh
played
yeah,
really.
I think they played all. They beat. Didn't they? They were playing against Denmark, I believe. Denmark is
Yeah,
who
yeah,
knocked them out, I believe, and they were riding that wave of
y-
Christian Eriksen support.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they actually had an underwhelming Euros, but that's
Euros.
Switzerland for you. They usually in qualifiers they're like world beaters, but when they get to the actual tournament, they just don't seem to have that next gear,
Yeah,
right? After the qualifiers, they just seem to be stuck in that. It's been the bane of their football. They're stuck in the gear that gets them there. They look good in qualifiers, usually top to a group or at least, but when they get to the World Cup, they're still in that mode. They can't take it to the next level because they typically simply don't have those star players.
yeah.
The star forward, if you want to call him a star, is Mbolo that plays in I think he plays in Germany somewhere.
You
That's the
see,
last I.
it doesn't have Cameroonian heritage with that name.
Yeah,
I
of
think
course
it
it
does.
is. It's
Yeah,
African in him. And then Sheldon Shakiri, but Shakiri doesn't even really play anymore. Like he
yeah.
plays in
Shakiri is not the
Chicago Fire
same.
now.
Yeah,
Exactly. So they're there to be had. The key to the greatness of their organization. They're always going to have solid defending. They're going to be hard to beat. That's for sure. But they're nothing special. I think that's pretty much it. Serbia is the one that. And when I look at that Cameroonian group, Serbia is the one that I think they're battling it with because those Serbians are technically always
oh
very, very good.
man, dude, I love those guys that come from the former Yugoslavia. I love their players, man. Whether it's
What's his name?
Croatia, Serbia,
Milivojevic right now playing for Fulham.
yeah,
I think he's
yeah,
scored like 30 something goals already this season, even though it's in the English Championship. but he is the beast. The thing is, he's a beast in the championship level. When it comes to the Premier League, not necessarily translates to success, to goals. But hey, he's there, and Mitrovic, yeah, that's his name.
Mitrovic, Alexander Mitrovic.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
in the World Cup setting like this, all he needs to do is just find a good patch of form, and it could be problems. We
yeah.
played
No,
against Serbia in the pre-World Cup, and then the friendlies before the World Cup in 2018. And man, he was a handful for our defenders. Handful.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. No, they have players, and that's even the ones we know of. These guys are solid, man. I think it's gonna be a fun.
Senegal is the team that I think everybody. I was actually talking to a couple of friends. I resumed playing football again recently. I think my knee injury is finally up, so I'm eligible to be called up by whoever the new Super Eagles coach is. But let's put that to the side. Most people here in the United States look at Senegal as that African. One of the guys told me, "Look, I think Senegal can make to the semifinals." Now, I didn't quite share that same enthusiasm, but I think if you're a Senegalese, you're feeling rather confident about your ability to do well in this World Cup. I think they got a favorable draw in the World Cup. They're in the same group as Qatar, which I mean,
Ecuador,
they're the host
Netherlands.
nation, but no one's quaking in the boots to play them. Ecuador, okay, so I'll say they give as well as they take, so a pretty decent team. But Netherlands are the pick of that group right there. But again, it's the Dutch. I can see Senegal beating Holland.
This is Holland
You
for
know,
you. Yeah,
I
yeah,
can. I can see
yeah,
Senegal
yeah,
might
yeah.
be the best team in that group.
No, Senegal for sure. I think. Listen, I saw some of Ecuador's game in qualifying. I think Senegal beat them, man. Listen, this Senegalese team that just played two legs with Egypt and came out, the Senegalese team, they are tactically solid. You have to realize the system they play, they have a solid system. They play very well. They have very good players in the midfield, at the back, in front. They manage the game
Quality,
well.
quality.
Quality players. I'm not talking about these are really good guys. I mean,
I think this might be the best African team that we've seen in a long time, and I think
they are
it's just a matter of
champions.
them. It's just a
Yeah,
matter of them showing up. And at least let's put it like this: I still think, even though they're champions, I still think they somehow don't play up to the quality they have individually, and they
yeah.
don't use that as a collective unit as well as they could. They have a world class player in Mane. Actually, they have a couple of world. They have like
They
three world
do.
class players.
They have Idrissa Gay. They have a couple of guys. They have what's his name is defender
Khalidou
that plays
Koulibaly was a world class center back.
Koulibaly.
The
Yeah,
goalkeeper is a
listen,
world class goalkeeper,
the
Mendy,
goalkeeper
and
is a world
Sadio
class
Mane.
goalkeeper.
And if you
They
look
have,
at Ghana
yeah,
Gay, I won't quite say he's world class, but he's definitely in that is he's definitely in the class, and then even the auxiliary players like Idrissa Sarr, that guy is like a
Sar, good
handful.
on the wing.
They
Yeah,
have
look,
what's the guy that plays for Marseille? Oh, Marseille in as the center back. Look, their team is just brimming with nothing but the. When we talk about the way they play in top five leagues for top teams in top five leagues. So Champions League players all over the
and
place, and their
and
bench
and
is
here's and here's the thing, right? You look at Senegal's population; it's not more than Lagos, right? Um, but this isn't a coincidence. And we're talking about sports and development here. This isn't a coincidence. The same thing we're just saying about Nigeria. Senegal over I would say the last 20 years has created more developmental programs than you can possibly imagine. There's Diambas that was created years ago. There are a couple of other football development facilities that have been built in Senegal, in Dakar, outside Dakar, and all over the country. They have a lot of players coming through the system. They develop them. A lot of the guys end up going to play at top leagues because they're good enough. They go out there, they take teams to compete globally, they get experience. This is not a coincidence. And their coach is locally hired. As a matter of fact, he's one of the guys that helped start the Ambars. So they've over the years have been able to build up this system for development. So now we're seeing all these players coming through the ranks who are exceptional Senegalese players, and there are more coming because they've created a system in their little country that we can see the benefits of. Senegal is a small country.
yeah, it is, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
big.
Senegal, if you look at it, I mean, Senegal is maybe the size of Benin Republic. They're not big. Yeah, but look at what they're doing. It
And
comes
the coach
down.
has been there 8 years.
Yeah, he's been there eight
And
years. They're
his
giving
local
him
coach
time
stuck
to.
to him.
Exactly. Did it?
Like I said, success doesn't happen accidentally, man. There's no
No,
you don't
no,
just accidentally stumble upon success. So
no.
he finished second in AFCON last time around and won it this time around. So you can see, and it's been coming. It's been coming. It's been coming. So again,
Now
this is a this is the second golden generation, but I think this one
correct.
is actually the real. But the other thing too, we must also admit, I think the former French colonies have one little bit of an advantage over the
They
English
could go to
speaking.
they go to France to play.
Yeah, because back when they finished, it was easier for those immigrants to go live in France, whereas for England, it wasn't as easy. The style of play too, the French style of play focuses on technique rather than brute strength and athleticism, which is what the English game is more about. Pace and directness. So these guys now grow up in France. They get that culture of they're cultured basically in technique, and now they choose to play for Senegal. A lot of them were born in France. Papis Mendy, born in France. The goalkeeper, uh,
Yeah.
a bunch of other guys. So another country that is that's why I was looking at them as one possible country that could make a shock in the qualifiers is Mali. Those two countries in particular seem to benefit the most from the fact
Yeah,
that they're
all
fully
of Mali's players, all of them, virtually almost all. I don't think there's anyone that plays that even got developed locally. All
right.
of them kind of play, all of them kind of play and stay locally, in their league. So I think, it's kind of it's one of those things. Hold on a second. Hey, hey,
Okay,
hey.
now
Yeah, man.
we have a special guest today. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and so sorry about that.
Not a problem. He's learning the ropes early. So he has to take over from you at some point.
No, man, but when you look at it, is those sort of things in terms of development that you look at it and like, you know, uh, but we dropped the ball. I mean, and you look at Morocco's group. Morocco and Tunisia. If you look at their groups in the World Cup, um, I don't think Morocco qualifies. I'm sorry. I think Canada. People are going to sleep on that team. I think they're a good team. They qualified top of CONCACAF. They surprised a lot of teams. They beat United States and drew with them on the road. They have real talent on the team. Real talent. You look at Belgium. You look at Croatia. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that honestly, that I said that group was balanced when where um who was in that group again? Sorry, Ghana was in. But I'm looking at this group F with Belgium, Canada, Morocco, and Croatia. That's another
Hmm.
pretty solidly poised group. And of course, easy. Everyone's going to look at Croatia and Belgium. I think Belgium they have the spot. But I'm actually thinking Morocco. That game against Croatia becomes a big game because as my look, as much as I like Canada and their story, I just don't think they just don't have the experience, the pedigree. And so, as of right now, I have to say that they're the least favorite in my opinion. Morocco, even though Morocco may not be a team that anyone necessarily fears, but they have players. They have players, top players, and they've been there before. They've done this. There's something to be said about having been at this stage, man. And a lot of these Canadian guys will be the first time the eyes of the world will be on them. So that's a huge amount of pressure, and it remains to see how they'll handle that. I give Morocco a fighting chance. Croatia, of course, they're Croatia. We're talking about Modric, Ilicic, all those guys that play all.
Perisic, all those guys. Listen, Croatia is a solid team, man.
Yeah,
Um,
but Morocco can beat them on a good day. They can't. It's just
uh,
yeah. I know you don't have as much confidence, but I wouldn't stick my neck out. All I'm saying is that match between Morocco and Croatia might well decide who goes on to qualify along with Belgium. You know,
Let me put it
and
like this to you: Tunisia and Morocco. I just think they're not.
look, I don't know, maybe I'm becoming a little harsh. I'm tired of seeing Tunisia. Tunisia style it just puts me to sleep. They're boring. They don't do anything. They just take up a space. They don't do anything that
That's my point.
benefits the African game. It's like, oh my goodness, they're just annoying to watch. They don't nothing. And now they're there, and that's why I was out. If I had my way, I would swap Algeria out to Tunisia and just let the Tunisians go do something else. Most of their matches in the World Cup have been snooze fest, and I'm talking going all the way back to 19. Do you remember any Tunisian match where you're like, "Oh my God, that was a great game"? No,
No,
no.
no.
Everybody else has been there. At least has had some memorable moments. Cameroon,
Yeah,
Senegal,
Cameroon.
Nigeria,
Listen,
Ghana,
yeah,
Morocco,
that's my point
Algeria.
though. When you look at the Tunisia and you look at the Morocco, you know, Morocco might have a little bit more confidence in them if Hakim Ziyech was playing for them. But right now, what I see, what's his name is the real stud on their team. What's his name? He scored that main goal for them in Afcon.
Oh, you're
Um,
talking about Hakimi?
Hakimi.
Well,
He's doing
they have
good.
Sudali. They have a bunch of guys. So the thing about
Yeah,
Morocco, they also have like a conveyor belt of people from France, from Spain, from Netherlands. That come
yeah,
into the team.
and they have good teams at home. Their league at home, they have really solid teams at home. So, but I don't see them not in that group. Sorry, I just don't
We'll
see them.
see.
I see them,
I mean,
but we'll
really, at
see.
this
Yeah,
point,
listen, I could be
I
wrong.
think we need to assess once we get closer to the World Cup. Then we can do more. Visibility of our assessment becomes greater because we're talking about finishing this season, off season, start of next season. There's so many variables that are going to occur between now and then that could change a lot of things. People informed, people injured. So we'll see how that goes. But I
That's a
think
good.
we're just
That's actually a really good point, though. So I think, yeah, we'll see. There's some time. There's some
yeah.
time.
Let
Yeah,
me ask you one question. I know we're
sure.
probably running out of time here.
Yeah,
Would you be willing to go to Qatar to watch the World Cup there?
yeah,
How do you feel about going there for this particular World Cup?
yeah, man. I'd love to go. You know, um,
I don't want to.
why
I
not?
don't want to. For one of the most obvious reasons is that Nigeria is not there. But apart from that, I'm a football
It's a,
fan first.
it's a
I
World Cup,
wasn't
right? Yeah.
following games exactly. I feel the weight of restrictions that will be put on everything. First of all the stadiums are within a 40-mile radius, which should make this a joyous situation. But really, outside of that radius, what is there to do? I feel like there's too many restrictions on women, on people
That's
that
the
are
problem,
different
right?
orientation, even on
No, no, no.
drinking, things like that. I just feel like, so what is this? Am I going to spend my whole time in a 40-mile radius? I don't want to say this. I don't want to sound bad, but also I do fear, for security, in terms of attacks. We're very close to an area of the world that is not particularly the safest region in the world. Nowhere is really 100% safe. But I'm looking at the way things are going in the world right now. When everybody's within a 40-mile radius of each other, that just screams attack, attack, attack to me. I don't know.
No, no.
But again,
They're valid concerns, man. Listen, you know, you're right. It's in a region of the world where, historically hasn't been safe. I don't know anyone Qatar is beefing with, but then some of these groups don't need an excuse for you to be beefing with them for them to destroy something. Um, you're right. The restrictions, though, because the World Cup is supposed to be a celebratory event where everything is open, where it's kind of a festival. You could go wherever you want. People are, you know, getting hammered. Not that getting hammered is okay, but it's part of football, right? It's part of the whole celebration of. It's a celebration, and the celebration should not be confined, you know, and all that stuff. So I totally get where you're going. They gave them the World Cup, bro, and
yeah.
once they gave
See,
them, yeah,
I've been to a couple of World Cup matches, and I've seen the atmosphere around, but it was here in the United States in '94, and
yeah,
back then, football in America hadn't really taken root right back then. So my experience. So I lived about less than 5 miles away from where the Brazilian team camped. At that time I lived in Cambro, California, and they camped in Los Gatos. Los Gatos is the next city over.
yeah.
So every day when we just after school we'll just go outside the hotel. It was nothing but party outside the Brazilian team hotel, samba dancers. But was very foreign to the American space at that time. Saw a couple of the practices. They were holding open practices in Santa Clara University at the time, so I was lucky enough to go watch one of the open practices. The thing I always remember is I had never seen a goalkeeper kick the ball so effortlessly, and the ball just went so far, like when Tafarel was kicking it, in practice. I always remember that. But anyways, I digress again. I seem to use that word quite a bit today. But I would like to actually go to a World Cup, but I think if I wanted to go, I want to go to one in Europe because that's for me. That's where the heart and soul of football is at. Maybe I missed my chance to go to Brazil in 2014, but that's my next. I've already done it once, but let me do it again so I
No,
can really.
It's coming North America in 4 years. So
Oh, then enough for sure will be here now. Then,
yeah,
then
yeah,
that's
yeah,
not
yeah,
even. I would definitely be God
yeah.
willing, obviously, but
Yes, God
yeah.
willing. We'll all be here, and and hopefully won't be restricted by any kind of
And I think by the
commitments.
next World Cup, it'll be 48 teams if FIFA has their way, which I think again is another one of those. I think 32 is perfect as it is. One can argue about how many slots each continent should have. I think that's a discussion for another day if we want to
Correct.
revisit that.
Correct.
But
Yeah.
48, it devalues the quality. I think it devalues. That means everybody's getting in at that point. So qualification becomes, like right now. Even look, Italy not being there, Nigeria not being there, it hurts, but it actually is. It gives the sport something to talk about, and it's a talking point. Maybe somebody else is now showing up and can do
No,
something.
it makes folks realize like, hey, listen, being here is not a given. You have to earn it, and some good teams didn't earn it. They got knocked out.
Are they
So
good things?
yeah.
you know.
In supposedly good teams in the eyes of the
Okay.
world, historically they've been
Right.
recognized as teams from their confederations that have performed.
Mhm.
Italy,
Mhm.
Nigeria. So, but yeah, man. Listen, we're gonna wrap up. Thanks so much. Enjoy your time where you are. I know you're out there partying, and we'll do this again. Got another session coming up soon, so we gotta get something scheduled and do it
Yes,
again.
sir. I
Talk
remain
about
loyal.
Chairman.
Yes, sir.